Welcome to this week's Eternal Monday, where Miraidon EX with Pidgeot takes on Malamar with Psychic Recharge from Forbidden Light. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that the Eternal format is a base set onward format with a ban list, so it's like Unlimited, but a little less insane. If you want to learn more about the Eternal format and the cards on its ban list, you can go to justinbasil.com/eternal. Up first, we have Miraidon EX featuring the Pidgeot from Fire Red and Leaf Green. This particular card has a very familiar Pokepower. You might know it by name even. It's called Quick Search. Search your deck once per turn for a card. Any card from your deck and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Basically, this is Quick Search Pidgeot, but this is a single prizer and one that is just extremely good for this deck. Miraidon is able to get the Pidgeot engine out and going because of the Delta Species Pidgey that happens to be lightning type, so it can use and find it with Tandem Unit. You have the Fluffy Pillow Mareep to help you get set up early on if you need to stall, and of course you have Dynamotor Flaffy, so that you're powering up your Miraidon, you're powering up Raichu, and you're just going ham against your opponent. And if you need a little damage boost, you have it. You've got Electro Power. You're reducing your attack cost by 1 lightning with Thunder Mountain Prism Star, and you're drawing a little extra cards with Speed Lightning Energy. And of course, just like in the standard version of this deck, you have Electric Generator that allows you to attach up to 2 lightning energy from the top 5 cards of your deck. Basically, this deck doesn't really look that different from its standard counterpart, except of course that it is using the Pidgeot engine. That is Miraidon Pidgeot. Up next, we have a toolbox deck focused around Psychic Recharge Malamar from Forbidden Light. Malamar is very similar to Flaffy in the previous deck, or to Dynamotor Electric if you're familiar with that, or Metal Link's Bronzong if you're familiar with that. They all work in very much the same way. They're attaching a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. In this case, Malamar is attaching a psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. We have some attackers that are useful in this deck. We have Dawnwing's Necrozma GX, which has the ability Invasion that allows it to force itself into the active spot. That makes it pretty easy to make use of Malamar. So we can force that into the active spot to get our attacker back onto the bench, and in so doing, get it powered up and then just retreat back out with Floatstone. We also happen to have Dark Flash that does 120 damage, and Dawnwing's Necrozma, of course, also has a GX attack, the Moon's Eclipse GX, that does 180 damage. And it says you can only use this attack if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. So your opponent will need some sort of way to force your Dawnwings out of the active spot, be that a Guzma, a Boss's Orders, a Lysander, an Escape Rope, Warp Point, anything of that sort. Necrozma V is also available to us in this deck. Necrozma V has the Prismatic Ray attack that does 20 damage, and Special Laser, which is the real reason we're running it. For Psychic Colorless, it does 100 damage, and if there's a special energy attached to Necrozma, it does 120 more. So 220, pretty decent damage. Necrozma GX, also fairly good damage. Has the Prismatic Burst attack for 3 colorless energy. It says discard all psychic energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 60 more damage for each card you discard in this way, so that's quite a bit of damage. Giratina is the basic Pokemon you see there next to Dawnwings that has the ability Distortion Door. Distortion Door says that when you put it onto your bench from your discard pile, you choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and put a damage counter on each of them. So you're basically able to recover your Giratina for free, effectively, and you're getting extra damage on the board. And then, as if that weren't enough, it has a fairly decent attack, Shadow Impact, that does 130 damage. You just have to put 4 damage counters on one of your Pokemon. Frequently, you'll put it on Giratina itself, since it's probably going to get knocked out anyway. The cool thing is about Giratina, we have access to Giratina level X. Giratina level X has the Pokebody Invisible Tentacles. It says whenever your opponent's Pokemon tries to attack, your opponent discards a card from their hand. So if you've leveled up into this Giratina in the active spot and then got it on the bench, your opponent, each time they try to attack, will have to discard a card. Even if they're not doing damage, they're going to have to discard a card, which is pretty good. And then Giratina level X has the attack Darkness Lost that does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can finish off kind of weak Pokemon effectively. And it says if any of your opponent's Pokemon will be knocked out by damage from this attack, put that Pokemon and all cards attached to it into the lost zone instead of discarding them. So very, very vicious attack. Very, very good actually, but maybe a little bit difficult to set up. Still very good. Moonlight Stadium reduces the retreat cost of Psychic and Darkness Pokemon to 0. So it's basically a Floatstone for most of our Pokemon. And then for getting extra damage into play, we have Spell Tag and Horror Psychic Energy. Spell Tag when it's attached to a Psychic Pokemon. If that Pokemon is knocked out, you get to put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. Frequently, they're going to be knocking out Giratina, so when Giratina gets knocked out, you'll just spread the love. And then Horror Psychic Energy says that every time the Psychic Pokemon is hit that it's attached to, they take 2 damage counters for attacking it. So that damage adds up fairly quickly, and it's really cool to see how the deck can spread all that damage and ultimately just weaken you and then finish you off off with something like the Giratina level X. One last thing I'll add about this Malamar deck. This version of it is running a Manaphy from Brilliant Stars. If you do plan on building Malamar, don't run the Manaphy. There's a Mr. Mime, run that. It's psychic type. You can find it with Mysterious Treasure. Just run that. Does the same thing. Slightly better even. Just run the Mimes. Anyway, that's Malamar. Let's jump into the game. All right, we have a Miraidon and an Inkay for our starters. Okay, the Malamar player is immediately discarding a Psychic Energy and a couple of Giratina. Level Ball going down, finding a finding an Inkay rather. One of the Giratina is coming out of the discard pile and coming into play. No effect for the pings with that ability, but we do see it go into the active spot after the float stone attaches to active Inkay. Kind of get it out of harm's way because that Miraidon is pretty likely to get a turn 1 KO here. We see Miraidon use its tandem unit, getting another Miraidon and a Pidgey. And then the second tandem unit is going to get a Pidgey and a Mareep. So good picks for that deck there, getting set up pretty quickly. We see an electric generator, finding 1, 2 energy. 1 and 2, both going on the same Miraidon on the bench there. We're going to see a float stone attached to the once active Miraidon and another electric generator. Just one hit there. Speed lightning energy, unfortunately not a hit for that effect. Going to see an attachment to the active spot and a knockout. Giratina immediately going down to Miraidon's pressure there. See, Versus Seeker top deck, not really what we want to see, but we do see a Distortion Door coming down twice. Pings going on Pidgey and Mareep. Interesting, splitting the Pidgey damage there. Professor Sycamore discarding the hand, drawing 7 new cards, saying, screw this hand, let's find some stuff, some good stuff. We see a Malamar evolve from the active Malamar evolve there, discarding a Psychic Energy to find a Necrozma V. Gonna do some big damage there. The Dawnwing's Necrozma being discarded off of another Mysterious Treasure for a Malamar. Going to see a double attach off of Psychic Recharge onto that bench Necrozma V, and a Horror Psychic Energy going onto that Necrozma V, so that they can in turn go to the active spot and take a knockout on that Miraidon. Beautiful. Good return KO there. See the other Miraidon go to the active spot. This player's going to have to find a Thunder Mountain Prison Star if they want to attack with that Miraidon this turn, or they could just power up a Raichu. That would also work. Ooh, Tapu Koko also coming down off of that tandem unit. Very, very juicy. Could still see a Thunder Mountain do some crazy things here. We do see an evolution up into Pidgeot, giving the player access to Airmail. And Computer Search, discarding Lightning Energy, and Guzma Hala finding a card. Couldn't quite see what that card was there. A Thunder Mountain Prism Star. Hey, go figure. Big surprise. Airmail finding a Electropower. It's basically power tablets for Lightning Pokemon if you're not familiar. Miraidon going to the bench and Raichu into the active. I have to imagine we're going to pop Tapu Koko here. Thunder Mountain does go down, so that does reduce the attack cost for Raichu V, and there's the Tapu Koko Prism. So we're going to find 2 Lightning Energy in the discard pile, and we're going to attach 1 to each of 2 bench Pokemon. So 1 going on the Miraidon EX, 1 going on the Mareep. And a Field Blower being played. Just targeting the Float Stone on the Malamar. Feels a little premature, but fair enough. There's definitely going to be a KO on this Necrozma here. Yep, getting charged up right now. So I just want to make it a little bit harder for the Malamar player to retreat. Going to have to promote something here. Choosing to promote the Inkay. That 1 retreat cost makes it a little bit more, a little less awful to do so. Going to get a Dawnwing's Necrozma and a Floatstone out of the discard pile with the Lana's Fishing Rod, and immediately bumping that Thunder Mountain Prism Star with Town Store, using Town Store to get another Floatstone. So that's beautiful. It's like it was never gone. Inkay now going to probably evolve up here. We do see a Marnie, so that's fun. Got a little bit of disruption there. Hopefully a Malamar or 2. I do see a Mysterious Treasure and a Malamar. So getting the active Inkay evolved up into a Malamar, maybe probably we'll see a third. No. Choosing instead to get Dawnwing's Necrozma, getting a different attacker out. Touching some energy to that Dawnwing's Necrozma. It going into the active spot via the retreat on the Floatstone there. And we're going to see the GX attack. So this turn it is immune to the effects of of the opponent's attacks, unless there is some way that the Miraidon player can force it out of the active spot. Do you see a U-turn board? I believe that's off the town store. Pidgeot EX or EX. Pidgeot coming out to play. It might as well be Pidgeot EX, but it's a single prizer. Same effect, just on a Poke Power instead of a ability. Some decks actually run both. It's a very, very good effect. Unfortunately, this Miraidon build really doesn't have room for both. And the vulnerability of having a Pidgeot EX is not super great if you can avoid it. So Miraidon does. We're going to see an evolution on the active Pidgeotto into the Pidgeot there. Pidgeot, of course, has free retreat, which is pretty good for right now. Do see a Flaffy off of that luxury ball, giving him access to Dynamotor. The U-turn board goes on to one of the Miraidon, the Miraidon that doesn't have Float Stone. And we're going to see a Super Rod, 3 energy going right back in the deck. Have to imagine they're charging up an electric generator, trying to make sure that they have a little bit more power there. Getting electric generator off of the quick search, I think is what that is. Hitting 1 and 2. Yep, 2 energy there. 1 going down on the Miraidon on the left, and the other going in the middle. And we're going to see a Raihan attaching yet another energy to the middle Miraidon there. And then finding a card in the deck off of that Raihan. Speed Lightning energy going down on the far left Miraidon. Drawing a couple cards off of that. Mareep going in the active spot. Interesting. Choosing just to put the Dawnwing's Necrozma to sleep. Doesn't really matter. It's awake again. that little stall tactic did not quite work out. Do you see a spell tag come down going on to that Dawnwing's Necrozma in the active spot? And a Horror Psychic energy being attached to that Giratina. That Mareep is KO'd. So that is now just 1 prize card left for the Malamar player. Gonna have to see something here from Miraidon to catch back up. Miraidon attaches a lightning energy to the middle Miraidon, so both of them are fully powered up, and plays an Iono. Just 1 card now for that Malamar player. This could be a game ender, frankly. We're going to see a retreat into the Miraidon and a KO. Dawnwing's Necrozma is knocked out by the attack on the Miraidon. Choosing the target for Spell Tag. Spell Tag, of course, going to drop 4 damage counters somewhere on the side over here with the Pidgeot. Yeah, Pidgeotto taking the hit, looks like. Just 1 damage counter shy of being KO'd. Town Store being used here to find Stealthy Hood. I think that's just to thin the deck. Stealthy Hood not really super effective in this particular instance. Just getting it out of the deck, yep. Sycamoring it away. Playing a Level Ball to find a Lapras. Interesting. Do you play the Lapras or do you not? Computer search going to find... That looks like Necrozma GX. That is Necrozma GX. Interesting. So they're going to attach 3 lightning energy to, or 3 psychic energy to Necrozma, and unfortunately narrowly missed knockout. So they attach to the Giratina, which if you're going for the play that I think I was going to go for myself to try to get the level X out and to do the attack, that would have worked. Unfortunately, level X was missing in action. Couldn't quite get to it. It had been discarded earlier on, and there was no way to get it out fast enough and recover it. So there was no way to level up in the active spot with the Giratina and then eventually use its attack to KO the benched Pidgeotto. That would have also gotten the game, but that was missed. So the alternate strategy would have been to do what the Malamar player tried to do but didn't quite succeed at because they had attached, hoping to do a little further. They'd manually attached return. They needed 1 more attachment on the Necrozma GX to take the KO, but unfortunately it just wasn't quite enough. But still pretty good game. Pretty close, actually. That is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this game. I really like the Malamar deck and kind of hope that we see more of it going forward. Obviously, this is a fairly early draft of this particular deck, and so it'll continue to develop as the format progresses. But Malamar is just a really cool deck, and it's got some really cool tools to go along with it. And frankly, I think it's very underexplored. So I look forward to seeing it in the future. That said, if you find yourself in the San Antonio area on January 12th, you can join us for the next in real life Eternal Format tournament. Deck validation begins at 11 a.m. with round 1 beginning approximately at noon. Anyway, that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.